So guys, before we get started, don't forget we do have that amazing discount code thanks to Tier 0 Games going on right now. And all you have to do is put in ZWGames5 to get 5% discount on your total order at tier0games.com. The links will be in the description below. What's up YouTube, Dale here from Fluffle Games, bringing you an update to Fluffles. Now this deck is actually been put together with both the current Master Rule and Master Rule 5, or Master Rules, that come in effect as of April. Someone at my locals played this last night and I was like, okay, this can still be played under Master Rule 4, so why not put it together now? So I've already got all the cards back out, put it together, and like I said, this build is taken into consideration. So if you were to put this together now, you can play it straight away. You will then be able to play it come January when we get Clothheap, and then you'll also be able to play this exact same build come April as well. There'll be some minor changes that I'll show you and explain as we go through it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the profile, show you exactly what we've got, explain why we've got certain ratios that we do currently have, and then what ratios will change as the time develops. Before we get into that, please like, comment and subscribe if you do have any questions whatsoever. And then if you enjoy it, by all means let us know by giving us a massive thumbs up as well. So without further ado, let's show you what we have for Fluffles. So, no matter what Master Rule you are playing, you will play triple Fluffle Dog. This is probably the main starter of the deck. Very, very powerful, very, very cool for the deck. So when it's normal or special summon from the hand, you get to add an Edge Imp, Saber or Fluffle monster from your deck to your hand except himself. Hard once per turn. Now obviously that is the best thing about Dog. It is your Stratos, it is your Deneb, it gets everything going. We've then got triple Bear. Now Bear of course is pretty cool as well. So this is part of the combo that goes with your vendors and your wings. So you get to send this card from your hand to the graveyard and then set directly a toy vendor from your deck to your spell and trap card zone. So the best thing about that is it can't be ashed. It can be called by the grade, but it can't be ashed. Alternatively, you can tribute this card, then target one polymerization in your graveyard and add it to your hand. Very rare that you're going to use that second effect. 9 out of 10 you'll be using the first one. But it also sets into the graveyard, preparing you for Fluffle Wings. Now the wings is, if this card is in the graveyard and you control Toy Vendor, you can banish this card from the graveyard, then target one Fluffle monster in your graveyard. Banish it, and if you do, draw one card. Then you get to send Toy Vendor you control to the graveyard, and then you get to draw another card, and then Toy Vendor will search. This is kind of like your own personal pot of greed with an additional search. It requires a bit of setup because obviously you need Vendor, or well, Bear and Wings, technically. It gives you 2 draws and a search. And then you get to push your plays further forward that way as well. We're then running triple Penguin. Now, Penguin can actually be played at 2 should you wish. I mean, it's kind of cool. I wanted to play Sheep. I couldn't find my version of Sheep. You probably put it in. But triple Penguin is fine. Basically, during your main phase, you can special summon one Fluffle monster from your hand except himself. So it does mean that this plus Dog gives you an instant rank 4 play should you want it. But 9 out of 10 you're going to be using it as fusion material. And then while this card is facing on the field, if this card is sent to the graveyard as fusion material, you get to draw 2 and ditch 1. So again, can be very, very powerful to set up your Wings and Bear combo. And it's quite important to kind of get your monsters onto the board, link them off. Ideally, certain ones like the Penguin you want to use as fusion material, so you want to use all your other fodder for the link summon, but should you absolutely have to, you can use this as a link fodder, and that's where Clothheap comes in and is very, very important. For the one-offs, we do play the one Fluffle Cat. So when it's sent to the graveyard as fusion material, you get to target one poly in your graveyard and add it back to your hand. So once you use the poly, you get it back. And obviously, as we know, poly is not a hard once per turn. We've then got the one Fluffle Owl. So when it is normal or special summon from the hand, you can add one poly from your deck to your hand. You can pay 500 life points to fusion summon one Frightfare fusion monster from your extra deck using this monster from your hand, or field as fusion material. You can only use one of the effects. You're either adding a poly, if you're going to go with the cat play, or some extension plays, or you're going to go with your owl. So the owl pretty much gives you a guaranteed fusion in some way. And we do play a lot of polys in this deck, so you want to ideally, that's why you don't max out on owl. One of owl is more than enough. We then play triple Edge Imp Chain. So when this card declares an attack, very rarely you're ever going to use this, you add one Edge Imp Chain from your deck to your hand. Nah, doubt you're going to use that. If this card is sent from the hand or field to the graveyard, you add one Frightfare card from your deck. That is what you're going to be using it for, ladies and gentlemen. Send it, add it, search it. And that's where the Edge Imp Sabers comes in. So if this card is in your graveyard, you place one card from your hand on top of your deck, especially on this card in defense position. So the best thing about this is it can be used twice, and then you're actually stacking your deck ready for any kind of mill ability that you need or draw ability should you need to, especially with stuff like Toy Vendor. Finishing up, I've got 2 Ghost Ogres. I've just got a thing for Ghost Ogre right now. I think it's incredibly powerful and underrated, and less people are expecting it. But of course, Triple Ashe does just as good of a job, if not better. For the spells, triple Foolish Burial Goods, and we play triple Foolish Burial Goods because you can send your Toy Vendor. When your Toy Vendor is sent to the graveyard, you get to add 1 Edge Imp Sabers or Fluffle monster from your deck to your hand, so you just add additional consistency. Mainly what you want to do with your Toy Vendor though is you get to discard 1 card, draw 1 card and show it. If it's a Fluffle monster, you can special summon 1 monster from your hand. Otherwise, discard this card. Now the best thing you've got to keep in mind with this is you can special summon 1 monster from your hand. It does not lock you. As long as you reveal a Fluffle off of its effect, you are good to go. If not, you discard the chosen card. Now, it is not a hard once per turn, which is why you can actually activate multiple vendors, multiple mills, multiple adds, multiple summons. It is crazy, and because it's special summons, it doesn't give you an additional normal, you're allowed to stack. And that is why this combos off amazingly well with Wings, because the plan is you go Toy Vendor, special summon, nice. So you go, well, let's play it from the top. Bear, discard, set Vendor. Activate Vendor, discard 1, draw 1. Ideally, you're discarding your Wings. Special summon a Fluffle, that's the best case scenario, special summon a Fluffle. You then use Wings effect, Wing to banish 1, draw 1, draw another 1, send Vendor, or send Vendor, draw another 1. Vendor's effect goes off, adds another 1. So you've gone 3 pluses off of the back of that. So you've replaced your Vendor, your Wings, and your Bear off of themselves, and then you should have ultimately had a special summon, a normal summon, and then possibly an additional special summon as well. Not to mention if you've got any fusion plays to push off with as well. We then play triple Poly, because Poly is Poly. And then the one card that the deck hasn't been able to abuse and abuse as much as I would have liked it to yet, but once we go into Master Rule 5s, or however you want to call it, we can use and abuse this card like no tomorrow, and that is Fright Fur Patchwork. Now, they actually got this card, OCG got this card ages and ages and ages before us. We didn't get it for a long, long time. So you get to add 1 Edge Imp monster and 1 Poly from your deck to your hand, only use the effect once per turn. So the idea was, after you've done all of your Poly plays, you could then use this again, or at the start of your turn you can use this, add a Poly, add the Fright Fur that you need, make your plays, do all of the patchwork, or the Poly plays, sorry, build your board up, go, 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 and then it's just insane. It just gives you so much recurrence and ability to use and abuse the Polys, and we actually get to use and abuse this more come Master Rule in April as well. You can currently, if you want to, cut this down to 2, but 2 or 3, it works just the same. We've then got double Super Poly. Super Poly 2 not only break boards, but of course they can be used on your monster to help push you for an OTK should you need it. Very rare that you'll actually need to additional extensions to OTK, but it is just there to break boards and then push you further forward. More relevant come Master Rules, because it doesn't clog up the extra monster zone, but you do use it to go into your Cloth Heap as well, where you have the ability to do so, or put it to a zone that Cloth Heap points to and get an additional plus from that as well. Then for own personal touch right now is double Pot Desires. Just for that additional draw power, I play a lot of 3-offs in the deck. By the time you've gone through your 1-offs, you're using Desires to extend. Desires going into a Poly or any kind of other extension play. Once you've made your Link monster, especially Cloth Heap, really, really changes the game up. And Desires is probably the best draw card for this deck right now. It already has its own Vendor and Wings. You want to make sure that you're going to resolve your Vendor and Wings as much as possible. But you also want to make sure that your Desires can help you extend your play should you need to. Double Instant Fusion. The best thing about this card is it does actually have a card to extend from as well. So it can help you get into your Sheep. Your Sheep can then be used as material to fuse up further, which can then be brought back with Sabertooth should you need it. But I'm also using it for a 1,000 Eyes and a Millennium Eyes to give me an additional protected first turn play, and of course a protected or a way of basically mind controlling my opponent when going second. Then for the final one-offs, we've got the 1 Monster Reborn, because bringing back your fusion monsters currently in Master Rules is always going to be useful, but being able to use Monster Reborn in Master Rule MR5 as well is always going to be useful. Just be able to give you additional extension, bring back any monster, even nick one of your opponent's link monsters, should you absolutely need to right now, and just move your plays further forward that way. And then finally, the 1 Fright for a Fusion. I was actually considering bumping this up to 2. You could take out a patchwork for a 2nd Fright for a Fusion, and the main reason you'd do that is because in the current situation, you want to be using your monsters as fodder to go into your link monster. So then they're 9 out of 10 going to be in the graveyard, and then that's where your Fright for a Fusion comes in over your poly. So bumping this up to 2 is quite advisable right now, but then you would change it come Master Rules in the future. So that's it for the main deck. Moving on to the extra deck. Quite straightforward and simple on the fusions. Let's get those in order. There we go. So we'll start off with the Super Poly targets. So we've got the 1 Millennium Eyes and the 1000 Eyes. This is just for a first turn and a second turn kind of play. Second turn to kind of steal your monsters. This could be a mind control if you want it to. It does pretty much the same job. Right now it is just there as clogging up the extra monster zone. You could use a Link River should you need to, but with Cloth Heap, you're not even going to need to worry about that at all. The idea is you use 1000 Eyes, steal your opponent's card, then use it as material for Cloth Heap, and off you go. For the Super Poly targets, we've got the Mud Dragon, you've got your Dracostapelio, and you've got your Starving Venom. Now, I would adapt these to whatever locals or event you are going to. If you feel you're going to see like boards of 3 dark monsters, then you go with the triple-headed. If you're not and you think you're going to be seeing Thunder Dragons, you've got your Dracostapelio. If you think you're just going to see darks, you go with that. And then Rogue, you've got your Swamp Dragons. You're covered on all bases should you want to break boards, or of course if you want to use them for your own Fluffle monsters. Then for the Fluffle monsters themselves, we do have the 1 Tiger, the 1 Wolf, and the 1 Sheep. Of course, all of these have their own amazing effects. So Tiger is when it's fusion summoned, you get to pop cards equal to the number of Fluffle materials used as its fusion summon. It requires Sabers and a Fluffle monster, or 1 or more Fluffle monsters. It isn't as strong, but it does give an attack boost to most of your other cards as well, and so does, of course, Sabertooth. Wolf allows it to attack as many materials as it's been used for, and again requires Sabers to do so. And then you've got Sheep, which requires Chains and a Fluffle monster, and this is basically an Armades, so during the battle phase your opponent cannot activate card effects until the end of the damage step when it attacks, and then if it's destroyed it gets to come back as well. So it's a nice little floater, and it is your instant fusion target. You can play it at 2 should you wish. I just feel 1 works out nicely right now. We've then got double Crackin. This guy is bad ass. So, it is not hard once per turn. It is once per turn. You can target 1 monster your opponent controls and send it to the graveyard. So, it does target, but it does send, so it doesn't destroy it, which is great. This card can't attack directly the turn it activates its effect, but it can attack twice on monsters, which is insane. And then if it did battle, you can switch this to defense mode. You've got a nice 3k defender. And you've technically cleared off maybe 3 cards, because when you combo that off with Sabertooth, the idea is you go Crackin, send, make Sabertooth, revive Crackin, send another one, and then attack twice, and it's just like boom. We've then got 2 Sabertooth. Now, Sabertooth is pretty much the boss monster of the deck. So when this card is fusion zoned, you target 1 Frightful monster in your graveyard, special summon it. All Frightful monsters you control gain 400 attack. If this card was fusion summoned using 3 or more fusion materials, it cannot be destroyed by battle or card effect, which is always a nice additional effect for this card. Now, you can play 3 if you want. I've only owned 2. I think 2 is more than enough, both going now and in the future, because you should never have to go through 3 of these. 2 at max if your opponent's like warning you or judgmenting you, something like that. But even then, if they warning you, they have to stop the spell that brings this guy out. So they'll only then be able to just strike the revival effect, and then if you've used it with 3 materials, even if they do strike you, he'll still stay on board. You just won't revive. So I don't think you'll ever need to go through 3. If you do, by all means, but I think 2 works out just enough. Then finally for the Link monsters, we've got the 1 IP Masquerena and the 1 Unicorn. This is just for some form of disruption during your opponent's turn. Now, because all of your other extra deck monsters and your main deck monsters are not Link monsters, you can go into IP quite easily, and then being able to discard isn't the end of the world for some of your Fright Fur cards, which is really, really good. And then Unicorn is just a version of Disruption. If you don't want to use Unicorn, or you want something a little bit less destructive but a little bit harder for your opponent to get past, you can use the BLS link as well. Or if you think you're going to have enough materials on board, you can go into an Appaloosa. Entirely up to you. These can be taken out. They're just there as additional disruption for doing something during your opponent's turn. And then finally, Clothy. Now, we don't get this till January, but as far as I'm concerned, it's only 2 weeks away, 2-3 weeks away. It's definitely worth putting in. And it requires 2 monsters with different names. If a monster or monsters is special summoned to a zone or zones this card points to, except the damage step, you can activate this effect, apply the following effects depending on that monster of the card. Now, you're not going to make a ritual, very rarely going to make a synchro, so the idea is, the fusion one, is you get to special summon one level 4 or lower monster from your graveyard, so you just go, okay, you can only use each effect once per turn, but the idea is you go fusion summon, bring one back, you've got the materials to then fuse again, make a Sabertooth. Sabertooth brings back the fusion material you've made once, so you go, for example, you go Crackin, send, then use it as fusion material with the level 4 you've brought back, make the Sabertooth, Sabertooth then brings that back. Now, it's not a necessity to have this, it just allows you to play a little bit freely. You can still do that same combo without it, but it just gives you a little bit more of extension. I don't expect it to be a high rarity card. I could be wrong, Konami could make it a secret, but maybe a super or a rare. And then that means it's a very, very good card for you to play around with, especially when Fluffles come out. And you've got so many fusion materials, why not? You're just constantly reviving your cards in the graveyard and then going, cool, I'm going to extend even further than I need to. If you wanted to, you can put some rank 4s in here as well, so you can put stuff in like Abyss Dweller to kind of stun the meta. And again, that's where I say adapt accordingly to what you feel you're going to be playing against. If you feel you're going to be playing against more stuff that will use the graveyard effects, then you can take out your IP, you can take out your Nightmare. But the chances are with your rank 4s, they're going to be your going first cards. They're not going to be your going second cards. So the Clothy is there to extend, to go for the OTK. Your IP is a main deck defensive play. Your Millennium Eyes is a main deck defensive play going first. Your Thousand Eyes is for going second. All your other Frightfur fusions are for going second, just to kind of wipe your opponent out and OTK them. And then one thing that people question quite a lot about Frightfurs is their going first play. Now, it suffers the same fate as all OTK going second decks, is it can OTK and win game 1 with the greatest of ease sometimes, but it can then also struggle. Once your opponent knows what you're playing, they'll make you go first in game 2, win that game, and then play around your OTK the next turn. So you do have to be very, very careful on the way that you kind of approach the next version or the next kind of attack. So what I advise with stuff like this is the best thing about your deck is they are slightly different in a way. They're all fairies, but they're all different attributes as well. So you have to be quite careful with the type of floodgates you want to put in. Floodgates are, of course, going to be your best friend for something like this. But their first turn play is kind of weird, and that's where, like I said, the rank 4s come in as well. That's where they're going to be a bit more defense-minded. That's where they're going to be a bit more, let's see what my opponent can do to kind of try and break my board. And that's one thing that I'll be working on more towards with the Fluffle deck themselves going further forward, and especially coming into Master Rules, because you can actually, if you're clever enough, dodge the Super Poly play and also dodge the Nibiru play as well. And they're two of the main threats that you're going to need to watch out for coming into Master Rules as well. But in my opinion, this is a very, very safe deck to invest in. Some of the cards are a bit expensive, like Sabertooth and Crackin, so you might wait, as they might get a reprint closer to the time. But that's a no guarantee yet, because you know Fluffles aren't really doing enough to be reprinted, and it doesn't look like they're getting more support unless you count Clothy in the upcoming future. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes, but it's definitely going to be a fun deck to play around with, and definitely a fun deck to catch a lot of your opponents off guard with as well, because they can play through a couple of disruptions. They've got a lot of draw power, they've got a lot of consistency, and it'll be very, very interesting to see where this deck ends up coming from now all the way up to April and beyond. But I hope you liked this video. I hope it gave you a good explanation of the deck, of what you use it for, and gave you a kind of structure to kind of build off of and adapt in the appropriate manner. But for now, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and as always, guys, happy duel.